Okay. Nassar, do you want to speak today about anything? I can add you to the audience if you do. If you do, raise your hand and I'll add you. Maybe you're not. Maybe you're not listening. We'll let everybody fill in here. Get a couple seconds to get started. What?
You asked me a question that I wasn't really, you didn't know how to use Discord for a second there. I don't have anything particular I need to go through. Is there something that, I guess other than just getting the ecosystem growth fund stuff rolling, is there anything you want me to go through?
Say that again? You broke up for a second.
There's nothing in particular that I have planned to go through. Just, I guess, only stuff that I'm doing on governance right now is for sure just ecosystem growth fund stuff.
Yeah, cool. So we can talk about that if you want. This one should be pretty light. Shelby's also not here today. She's out sick. I was thinking of just like reviewing the timeline for the proposals and then maybe doing a little bit of a discussion about some of the work that is going to be landing in RadicleDAO community. But I'll have you up here just so you can train as well. Also add Boredom. If you want to raise your hand and I can add you, or you can add yourself, and she'll be giving a grants update. Hi, everybody who's here. We're just going to be taking a second to let some more people trickle in. I also have to make sure Shelby's out sick, and she usually shares all of this great material. So I just want to make sure. We also have that shared in the chat. Add this here. Cool. Okay, so let's get started. Welcome everybody to this month's Radicle Governance Working Group meeting. Usually this is moderated by Shelby and I. Shelby is out sick today, so it's just going to be me. We don't have too much on the agenda this week. We're going to review some of the recent governance actions in the community over the last month. Talk about next steps for those. I'll give a little bit of a teaser for some of the work that we've been doing regarding our transition to the DAO and just kind of set the stage for some great discourse posts that are coming next week and provide the opportunity for some community discussion there. Phil, you might be interested in that. This is kind of relevant to some of the conversations that we've been having in the discussion channel. And then I did the grants update last week, but I'm really excited for Boredom to kind of give a greater grants update today, because there's been a lot of awesome action in the grants community. So yes, Boredom, I'm seeing your message. You can speak earlier. Let me just give a couple of reminders and then I'll pass it off to you and you can do the grants update first and then we can move into some of the proposal updates. So perfect. So first I just want to give a couple of reminders. First, if you have questions or if you'd like to speak, just be sure to post in the working group chat before, just so what is it called? So I know who's going to come up and speak, since sometimes we have people who spam the stage. And then the second reminder is that we introduced this new process for delegation and this active delegate platform. We've had a bunch of people apply and start maintaining profiles. We are going to be having some on-chain votes upcoming over the next week. So I'd highly recommend anybody who's been, kind of waiting to get that application together to maybe start looking into it this week. Shelby and I are currently coordinating some redelegation with early Radicle holders like investors and team members. And so it's a really good time to kind of present yourself to the community since we'll be doing this redelegation and then moving into 2 on-chain votes very soon. So that's just a call out if you haven't done that. I take a look into it. While boredom's speaking, I'll actually put the documents in the working group channel. And a reminder that even if you're not announcing yourself as an active delegate, but if you want to participate in on-chain governance, that you have to verify your address on Sybil to be able to participate in the on-chain vote. So it's a little bit different from just participating in the snapshot votes. Those are the only reminders from me. Boredom, I'll pass it off to you to give the community a little update from the Radicle Grants program.
Cool. Thanks, Abbey. Can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Sweet. Yeah, so I'll basically go over a few things. First off, just going to go over like a few of the grants that are either completed work or up for votes. Just give you an idea of sort of the types of things that are coming in. And then talk a bit about finances. So talk about how we're going to start dog fooding some Radicle products, including splits, strips, and some other ideas. And also talk a bit about how to start working with core dev, which is going to be tangentially related to one of the recent grants. So I don't think there's a way for me to share my screen. I don't see, but yeah, so basically there's one grant that recently finished its first milestone, which is this one called Learn Web3, which is a little learning portal that kind of just teaches people and gets them up to speed on certain topics within the Web3 ecosystem. So they had two milestones related to Radicle. One is just a sort of intro to what Radicle is. And they're currently on their second milestone, which is running through just a tutorial on how to use the CLI. And they kind of approach it in a way that's like very friendly to people who are kind of like more on the noob level with some of the tech. So I'm looking forward to see that. It should kind of add to the sort of nice library of things that are coming out from other people like Netter, who recently made a video on YouTube. The other thing is Yorgos is on the call. He put in an application to do research on IDE. This one's really exciting for me. I think it's a nice first step towards dipping our toes into doing like actual product work that is not just ecosystem. It's not just community. It's really like building something that people can use in their development workflows. So that one's really exciting. We got votes passed for that one, so funds were sent over. So you guys feel free to run with that. I hope you do really well. And then lastly, we got a pretty recent grant that was from this group called DAO Star. And Kia from Gnosis is actually in this group. So probably will ask her to abstain from voting for it. But yeah, this is basically trying to work on creating standards around identity and metadata for DAOs. So yeah, if you go on our discourse, you can see a lot more details about kind of where all these sit and the discussions around them. Next topic, trying to make it quick, is just I started setting up, dog fooding for grants. So I set up the splits today. So anyone who ends up giving money to us will just go towards a few projects, such as Snapshot, for example, or Compound, just basically protocols that help us with governance and grants. And the idea is pretty self-explanatory. We just want to give back to the protocols that make our work possible. The other thing that Abbey started kind of cluing me into was some ideas of working with other protocols like Gitcoin and possibly doing basically sharing tokens. And so that's really exciting idea of possibly finding new ways to kind of distribute ownership of RAD more broadly and on a larger scale. And last thing to just discuss is I'm starting to meet some folks in different core groups. So I'm going to meet with Upstream later today and just kind of go through the list of things they think are sort of low-hanging fruit or things they don't necessarily want to work on or don't have expertise on. to see if we can't plug gaps in with grants. And my plan is to kind of do that with all of the various teams. And the idea there is on one hand is like, I guess you could say it's progressive decentralization, but I'm not expecting everyone that comes in through that way to like necessarily become a core developer. I'm really flexible and open to the idea of people dropping in whenever they can to contribute. So I'd say like the plan for that is from like I guess like a hiring perspective or finding people to work with us. It's very flexible, kind of open to people who want to join the core team or just do things as they please.
Nice. And I would love to see the output of those core team conversations. I know that we've talked about how would be the best way to kind of go about those. Are you planning on capturing them in any certain way or presenting them?
Yeah, I think what I'll probably do is when I do these calls, it'll be like just sort of chicken scratch notes on a Google Doc, and then like slowly build it into like a roadmap of sorts if I start to see any common threads, or if there's something like really big, like I don't like for example like building out like Windows support for upstream is probably like a really big one that would need like an actual roadmap with like a 6-month plan. So for that kind of stuff, I'd probably break it out into separate docs.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Yeah, that's awesome. I think that will be really good and really cool to kind of see what comes out of those. And definitely, I think that I'd love to see, I'm really excited to see kind of more like deeper product grants, like Yorgos, what was proposed with the IDE integration. And I really enjoyed seeing some of the cross-core team involvement in kind of discussing that proposal. And as Nassar suggested in his review of the grant, like being able to kind of see some more cross-core team review of the work and then see how that kind of, spins into like Radicle product development in general will be really interesting. And I think really cool to start experimenting with.
That is a perfect segue to a topic that I totally forgot about, which was in the general finance sort of category of things I mentioned. So I totally want to set up a community for grants. The main thing I'm waiting on is to get a custom NFT made from Brandon. But the plan there would be to make a grants community, and it's an experiment. It'll need a critical mass and like people to actually join the community. But the idea there would be like basically make, snapshot votes using the NFT so that anyone who buys into the grants NFT can vote on grant proposals. So we could allocate some percentage of either grant funds or just number of proposals. I'm not sure what it would look like, but we could say something like 20% of the funds can be voted on by the community, rather than what some people might consider like the ivory tower of a grants committee. We could say like, well, we're going to allocate some large chunk of it actually to the community to get product features or tutorials or sort of anything else that they might want. You could just do it via snapshot.
Interesting. And so it would be like a community on drips.
Yes, exactly.
Nice. Yeah, I think it would be really interesting. I think it'd be cooler to distribute the NFTs or like have a way to earn the NFTs instead of kind of like buying it potentially. But I feel like that would be really interesting to explore in developing like a more focused way to kind of actually have a community grants program instead of, you're right, like kind of going through this like committee model. Nice. Cool. So any more updates or questions for Boredom? You can drop them in the working group chat or raise your hand. Nope. I don't think anybody's typing either. Okay, cool. Then that's awesome. Boredom, thanks for the update. It's really cool to see all the grants stuff going down. So I'm really excited to see everything happening next month as well.
Yep, thanks.
Cool. And just a reminder to everybody that all of this grant stuff is happening on Discourse in the grants category, so you can always check in and see what's going on. Cool. So now I'll just talk a little bit about governance activity over the last month. So we had 2 proposals pass formal review, which is really exciting. The first of those being the Radicle Ecosystem Growth Fund. I don't have the snapshots up specifically for how well they passed, but both passed the participation thresholds, which is really exciting for everybody who knows how much we had to kind of work around that for getting the Radicle Grants Program passed. It was great that these passed the formal review on the first try. So we got the first one is the Radicle Ecosystem Growth Fund, which is led by Nassar, which is basically funding the Radicle Growth team with a pool of capital that they can employ to fund growth initiatives. Really exciting experiment. So excited to see this one pass. So this is going to go live for on-chain vote next week. With that, I think the work that we need to do there, Nassar, is just making sure that we have, I think we already have the multi-sig set up with all of the committee members. And then Ball will kind of be in your court to kind of get everybody engaged, similar to how Boredom did with the Radicle Grants Program. I think it would, whoa, background noise. I think it would be good to figure out, and maybe in that process as well, once it goes up for an on-chain vote, just kind of think about where you want to have the space for kind of talking about the Radicle Growth Ecosystem Fund, and if it's here in the governance working group call, if it's in the Radicle community call, if it's in a subcategory of governance on Radicle.community. That was just one thing that I was kind of interested in chatting with you about, is kind of like how you want to kind of keep the community apprised to what you're doing. But maybe you can share thoughts on that now, what you're thinking, or, you know, kind of in the future.
Yeah, first of all, I feel like I need to give a whoop whoop, although I'm not I guess cool enough to pull that off. But yeah, I'm excited about getting the Ecosystem Growth Fund out. With regards to where I'd like to update and kind of coordination around that, first of all, I feel like Boredom has set the bar very high for coordinating everyone and organizing all of that stuff. So I'm going to be sweating over the next few weeks, I think, setting that up. And with regards to updates, I would say probably community call. For me, I think doing it in the community call feels more natural than the governance call. I probably will create a category in Discord similar to what Boredom has done with grants, or maybe it'll be a part of the ecosystem category we already have. But yeah, let me have a think through how we do all of those pieces. I think I'll be working that out over the next week or two.
Yeah, Boredom definitely set the bar very high. But I think like a combination of repository of version, I think like having a repository as kind of like a baseline is always good to have stuff that's version controlled, hosted on Radicle and or GitHub. I think is like good best practice. But I think the community call is better fit for this, since it'll be directly related to your work leading the growth team as well. I'm really excited to get your committee involved too. For those who don't know, haven't read through the proposal, Nassar sourced like a really awesome committee of people from not just like the Web3 ecosystem, but kind of like the greater open source and kind of growth leaders and experts. And so I think it'll be really cool to get them engaged with the core team and the Radicle community at large. So great job on that. I will call out that we would have been able to push, we are able to push these to on-chain this week, but Shelby and I made the decision to try to coordinate some more redelegation with our investors, kind of activate some more of our investors, have them delegate to community members, delegate to themselves, just so we can kind of increase the chances of passing, if that's what the community is looking for, and kind of continue getting more community voices in as we go vote to vote. So that's the reason why we were pushing next week, but regardless, we're really, really excited to kind of get this proposal through. So that's great. Feel free to shoot Nassar any questions in the working group channel, or comment in in the discourse, but definitely be on the lookout for that on-chain vote next week. The next proposal is removing the name registration fee, which has also passed formal review. This was one that was actually agreed upon before the year ended, and we kind of just had to revive a little bit and push to formal review again, but that passed. So that will also be going to on-chain vote next week. And that will be reducing the RAD fees associated with registering ENS names, which is meant to support adoption of Radicle in general by making it easier to register ENS names and increase discoverability. Cloudhead and I have been leading that. Cloudhead's on vacation, but we should be in a good place to also make sure that that proposal goes up next week for on-chain view. Ideally, we'll do it at the same time so everybody can just like vote as once. We talked about batching the proposals, but I don't think proposal batching is best practice at the moment. And we could probably talk about what would be best practice for batching, but for now we'll have two separate proposals, and Shelby and I will try to coordinate communication around those to make it as easy as possible to participate. Any questions there? I don't see anybody typing. Pretty straightforward, but very excited to kind of get these two proposals forward. So feel free to drop any questions that you have regarding the proposals. Oh, do you have a question?
I was gonna say, I guess with the Saya kind of having joined the team about a month ago, I'm kind of keen to kind of get his thoughts on someone who's just entered the ecosystem and is actively engaging, like how he feels about like governance and these processes that we like. I don't know. I just feel like I'd be keen to kind of hear his lens on it if he's up for jumping on.
Yeah. Isaiah, do you want to chime in with some thoughts here, or yeah? How do I add you? Either you can add yourself, or if you raise your hand, you can join.
Just put him on the spot there. I'm not sure if he actually wants to
say
it. I'm just what's it called? Yeah, I'm just kind of curious from someone who, as I say, there we go. Yep.
Yeah, so I mean, from my perspective, I think I feel like this is probably like one of the more mature teams that I've seen in Web3. I don't feel like there's many issues with governance. I just think it's an evolving thing. Yeah, I don't necessarily see any red flags that I've seen or noticed with other Web3 entities, organizations, and just projects. But I like that everybody's mindset and perspective, at least it seems aligned in regards to like wanting to accomplish the same thing for the ecosystem and, being open to new ideas and, also being confident in like, their frame of thought, but then also, being willing to adopt new perspectives, immediately. Yeah, I've enjoyed my experience working with, everyone here. So yeah.
Nice. Can I ask what, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to ask if you found any specific governance resources to be helpful in kind of onboarding to the process or understanding how to get involved.
Yeah, I think. I wonder if that's like an operational thing more so than a governance like challenge. I think like onboarding people to an ecosystem or to like whether it's a DAO, whether it's like a team or a work stream, what have you, I think that just it's case by case basis. I found that like applying methods that worked for other Web3 entities or organizations or DAOs or even like developer teams, it doesn't always work, even if it's the same setup and structure and even like maybe even the same people, just because there's a different, the timing is different, the goal is different, and maybe the incentives are different, that governance doesn't seem to operate or work in the same way. And so, I mean, I'm very big on kind of just like, looking at things from like, I think first principles and making sure that it's like, you remove the barriers of entry, right? For people who are trying to, whether it's like contribute or add value or learn. But I think having a fresh perspective with each, I would say, project or team is very important in my opinion. Before the grants and funding or just opportunities to learn how to contribute, I do think like, developing the documentation around that, that's something we're actively working on. So I think, to me, I don't necessarily see it as a problem because I know we're actively working on solutions. But I think, but I think that it's more so of an operational thing. I don't think it's a governance issue.
Yeah, because I actually just had like a really great conversation with a new team that's building tooling for onboarding new contributors and kind of improving DAO contributor experience in general. And I think Radicle's in a really interesting position because I think DAO tooling over the last 6 months has like accelerated beyond what it was when the Radicle Governance Network launched. In a really interesting way. And now there's all this new tooling for people who are creating new DAOs and how to onboard people to new DAOs and all of this. And it's also kind of tough to kind of adapt the DAO that, we instantiated when we launched Rad to kind of one of these new modular DAOs with all this kind of like new social tooling. And so it was really interesting because I talked to this crew called Otterspace. I would recommend everybody look them up because I think I'm going to be trying to explore how we could use some of their tooling, but they're taking a really exciting approach, which is basically creating like a very integrated onboarding flow that allows contributors to build reputation, but not in this kind of like very specific platform way, in a very integrated way, meaning it's just kind of creating a single place for you to manage your relationship with the DAO and your behavior with the DAO and your membership with the DAO that isn't kind of like reliant on like building another identity in another platform. I don't know. It's hard to, I literally just learned about it, but I was really excited by a lot of those things. So I'm probably going to ask them to come do a Discord chat about it in the near future because they're really interested in partnering with us and kind of piloting their app with our community. My only qualms is how the product will fit a DAO that's already been formed and is now trying to improve and create more community with all these new tools that are at our disposal. But it seems like their goal is to be able to do that and onboard current DAOs. So I feel like that will be really exciting to test out with new contributors as well, because I definitely think that there's like a lot of things that we need to improve.
There's this tool that like Otto reminds me of. It's called Clarity, and they kind of are building that contributor workflow as well. It's like Notion meets Notion meets sort of like I don't even know if there's even a comparison for the other component, but yeah, it's very interesting to me how they're building their solution out for DAOs and like DAO contributors, and sort of basically having this like centralized hub where basically after completing a task, a DAO contributor can be paid and rewarded for that task, project, or initiative. And I think that's like a dope way to sort of streamline, contributor payments, but even like, grants and things like that, having those deliverables all within a centralized location to track tasks. And so that way, you just reduce the amount of, tools that people have to log into to keep up with everything.
Yeah, they mentioned that they're working with the Clarity team as well right now, because I think Clarity's worked on contributions where this team is actually trying to work on like the community side of this, which is like how do you actually create a reputation model within a DAO? How do you distribute permissions based off of roles? And it's kind of about like creating roles and creating kind of more modular tools that go outside of Discord that allow your DAO as a community to kind of form and evolve together. And then how does that interplay with different like contribution tools like Clarity or like potentially work streams is something that I brought up, like our Radicle tooling, snapshot, and like different behavior, which I thought was like a nice approach. And they have like this really interesting NFT membership / badge model, which I thought was really cool and potentially could be a primitive for us to kind of employ. So I think that I definitely want to be exploring all these tools and kind of doing more of a collective deep dive into this. I know Wonderverse is also someone that you guys have been talking to. So as now we're being approached by these tools to kind of partner with us, I think it's time to start kind of diving in and seeing how these would kind of fit into Radicle now, but also where we want Radicle to be in the future.
It's interesting you mentioned the drips, like or I guess like the NFT card membership cards, because I know for one of the creator DAOs we were onboarding the drips, they were going to do that for their like membership NFTs, was issue out like the membership NFT cards to those who contributed to essentially their like crowd fund. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's like everybody's really working on the same like goal, you know, the same problems. And so I think it's going to be really interesting for us as a potential user of all these platforms to really start understanding like what our needs are and requirements, so we can start introducing and revamping some of our tooling to make our community like, you know, more effective, our contributor onboarding more effective, and all of that. Nice. Okay, cool. Thanks for those thoughts, Isaiah. I think that this actually is like a really good segue into what I wanted to spend a couple minutes teasing, which is basically what some of the next steps we're taking with regards to our transition to the DAO. So I don't know if I linked this before. And again, this is going to be a big meaty discourse post coming up. But when we launched RAD, we kind of explicitly stated this vision for increasing decentralization within the Radicle project. Currently, the Radicle Foundation coordinates and funds core maintainers and contributors, but the goal has always been to transition all project development to be funded via the Radicle Treasury, which is basically the RadicleDAO. It is RadicleDAO, not basically. And so the prime directive of the foundation has always been to support the development and growth of like community infrastructure and scaffolding that can be employed to achieve that vision and kind of fully transition our core teams. And so we've started making a lot of progress, like even the creation of the core team model, which was a significant decentralization from the development model of Radicle before, which was basically like monadic. One company was developing all of Radicle. So we've made a lot of progress, but we're starting to kind of set our scopes on what's next. And so the foundation is currently coordinating what those next steps will be. And I'm really excited to kind of be sharing those with the community. And we're putting forth a proposed org design for community feedback and deliberation of where we can take the project next, as well as creating a couple work streams. And Phil, this is kind of what I was referencing in the discussion, the governance discussion channel, a couple work streams that are with regards to general, I guess, conceptual paths forward for the project. And so I just wanted to tease those a little bit and start getting people thinking about it, which is like, one, how do we kind of introduce a non-financialized governance layer that allows for us to distribute governing power more fairly and equally among those who we think should be governing, which is active contributors, basically, and users. And I think that a lot of protocol ecosystems are experiencing the qualms and the issues with token voting in general as well. So I think that understanding how and thinking about how we could be improving the distribution of governing power within the Radicle network is something that we should start prioritizing, and is a work stream that I'm going to be proposing to the Radicle community over the next couple of weeks. The next one is the continued distribution of power as in tokens, which is like how are we, the Radicle project, increasing the associativity of our network from anything from user rewards to token rewards to DAO collaborations like token swaps. These all kind of fall under the category of like distributing power within the network, and I think is also going to be another work stream, which is how can we, you know, implement new strategies and models for attracting and retaining contributors, users, and ecosystem partners. So that's another one. And then the third one is kind of like a reevaluation of our governance stack. And this is kind of what I was referencing before of why I'm having these conversations with Audiverse and why I want to continue having more conversations with Clarity and Station and Wonderverse. There's a ton of DAO tooling right now. Everybody's building tooling for DAOs, and we are a DAO. And I think starting to understand what our needs are as DAO collectively, and using that to inform what tools we'd like to implement and introduce to our community as the Radicle Governance Working Group is top of mind for me. There's like so much out there right now, and so far over the last 6 months, we've just been working with what we've got, introducing tools to solve these stopgap solutions and introduce solve like immediate problems. But I'm excited to kind of together as a community think about what improvements we want to make to governance, what are our biggest pain points, what are our needs, what are our requirements, so we can start either working with DAO tooling projects to make them better for us, or find new tooling that solves our problems in different ways. And so that's going to be the third work stream. And so that's just like a little bit of a teaser. I'm happy to answer kind of any questions there or collect thoughts now regarding that. But there's going to be a big discourse post coming in the near future that will start outlining this work, these milestones, these objectives, and creating space for the community to get engaged in these work streams and working groups. So please keep an eye out for that. Any thoughts or questions, or anybody want me to talk about any of that more? I don't see anybody raising their hand or chatting. Feel free to just drop it in the discussion channel if you'd like some more information, and I'd be happy to share more. If not, just look out for that discourse post that I'm putting together. So that's it from me on our agenda. As I said, it was going to be a little bit of an early one today. If anybody would like to share anything else with regards to governance, speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay, then I think we'll end there. I'll try to find some time to put some notes together, but since Shelby is out sick, I haven't been able to take active notes, but I'll try to take these updates and push them out to Radicle community promptly. But yeah, thank you everybody for joining. We'll chat next month, and in discussion and working group, feel free to drop any questions or follow-ups. I'll be sure to push the recording live ASAP as well. Thank you.